There are sequels people forget, and then there are sequels they avoid, not because they're bad, but because they go places most movies won't dare. The Hills Have Eyes 2 is one of those. Released in 2007, just 1 year after the successful remake of the original Hills Have Eyes, this sequel dropped us right back into the unforgiving desert. Only this time, the story wasn't about a stranded family. It followed a group of young National Guard trainees who were sent to a military outpost deep in the New Mexico desert. What they thought was going to be a routine mission quickly turns into a terrifying fight for survival. Directed by Martin Weiss and written by Wes Craven and his son Jonathan, the film was designed to push the boundaries of mainstream horror. It leaned hard into the brutality, isolation, and sheer terror that made the first movie so unforgettable. But unlike the 2006 reboot, The Hills Have Eyes 2 wasn't just violent. It was relentless, controversial, and raw. And that's exactly why so many people either hated it or never stopped thinking about it. In today's video, we're going to break down every moment of this sequel. The story, the characters, the horrifying setting, and why it was buried by critics but celebrated by a certain kind of horror fan. This is not a glorification of violence. This is an honest, thoughtful look at a film that dared to be unflinching. Viewer discretion is advised. And remember, all content discussed is fictional and analyzed for entertainment purposes. Let's head back to Sector 16 and uncover what really happened in The Hills Have Eyes. 2006's The Hills Have Eyes remake was a brutal success, reimagining Wes Craven's cult classic with a fresh political twist, radiation-mutated cannibals, and a desert that swallowed the American dream whole. But 1 year later, The Hills Have Eyes 2 dropped. And it didn't just continue the story. It dragged us deeper into the nuclear nightmare, this time with soldiers instead of civilians, with organized mutant warfare instead of random ambushes, with zero mercy. Why did this film go under the radar? Why did fans either love it or hate it? Let's dive deep into the blood-soaked sand and dissect one of horror's most disturbing sequels. This is your full recap of The Hills Have Eyes 2. The movie opens in the New Mexico desert, the same region where the Carter family was ambushed in the previous film. But this time, it's not tourists driving in blindly. It's a military operation. The U.S. government has finally acknowledged the contaminated Sector 16, the former nuclear testing site, and deployed scientists and soldiers to contain it. The goal? Erase any remaining threats and bury the truth. Our first real moment of dread kicks in when we witness a harrowing scene involving a captive woman and a forced childbirth. It's difficult to watch, and it sets the tone. This isn't just another slasher, it's systemic horror. The mutants want to repopulate. Soon after, a group of young National Guard trainees is choppered into the zone, under the illusion that they're there for a routine support mission. These are rookies. No real combat experience, no clue what they're walking into. They land at an empty outpost with no sign of the research team they were sent to resupply. Communications are down. Equipment is damaged. The heat is unbearable. And then, the attacks begin. Unlike in the first film, the mutants here aren't reacting to intruders. They're lying in wait, organized, coordinated, savage. The first kills are fast and shocking. One soldier is dragged away by a hidden enemy. Another is pulled into a cave and savagely attacked. The rest of the team scatters, unprepared, confused, trying to stick to protocol in a place where protocol doesn't matter. Let's talk about the mutants for a second. These aren't just radiation-twisted brutes. They're part of a bloodline that's been hunting, hiding, and surviving for decades. And now, they're not just eating humans, they're using them. Especially the women. One of the female trainees is abducted. What follows is one of the most disturbing and controversial sequences in the film, as the mutants target her for forced reproduction. The film doesn't glorify it, but it doesn't hold back either. It's meant to make you uncomfortable, to remind you that horror often reflects our darkest historical truths. The tension in this film isn't just gore, it's the powerlessness of being outmatched in a lawless zone. These are trained soldiers, yet they're falling one by one. Not because they're weak, but because the enemy fights without rules. If you're still watching, I know you've got a strong stomach and a real love for gritty horror breakdowns. Drop a comment below and let me know. Did this sequel go too far? Or was it raw horror done right? hit that subscribe button. We go deep into horror franchises like this every week. Now let's keep going. As the film progresses, the surviving trainees find themselves driven underground. Literally. They discover the mutant tunnel system beneath the hills. What was once thought to be random attacks now reveals something worse. The mutants have built an ecosystem. The tunnels are layered with bones, makeshift shelters, evidence of past victims, and grim breeding spaces. This is where we meet Hades, the towering leader of the mutant tribe. He's strategic, he's sadistic, and he has one goal: to ensure the mutant bloodline continues, no matter the cost. The film's standout hero? Amber, a medic who, at first glance, seems like a side character. But when chaos hits, she steps up. She's resourceful, level-headed, and driven by the need to save lives, even if it means killing. She and the last few survivors rig traps, fight with whatever tools they can find, and eventually face off against Hades in a claustrophobic final sequence that pulls no punches. Hades is eventually taken down, but not before inflicting serious harm and deep psychological trauma that'll last a lifetime. Only 2 members of the unit survive: Amber and Napoleon, the quiet, underestimated soldier who rises to the occasion. They emerge into the daylight, alive but shaken. By the end of the film, the threat seems neutralized, but the camera lingers on the hills, on the silence, on the idea that maybe not all of them are dead. There are questions. The Hills Have Eyes 2 never answers. Were the government ever truly planning to help? Did the military know the mutants were still alive? And what happened to the women who were taken and never found? It leaves the door cracked open for a third film that never came. Not officially, at least. Mind Ripper, which we discussed in another video, was a spiritual cousin, but not a true continuation. This sequel was loud, graphic, and relentless. It sacrificed subtlety for shock. But maybe that was the point. In war, in cover-ups, and in horror, innocence dies fast. So how do we remember The Hills Have Eyes 2? For many horror fans, it's the forgotten middle child. Too dark to be mainstream, too intense for casual viewers. But over the years, it's found its cult audience. People who respect it for going there, for not softening the blow. Is it perfect? No. Some of the characters are underdeveloped. The pacing can feel rushed, and the scenes involving captives are deeply unsettling, as they should be. But the atmosphere? Raw. The kills? Unforgiving. The world building? Underrated. And in the timeline of post-9/11 horror, where films like Hostel, The Descent, and Saw reflected our real-world anxieties, The Hills Have Eyes 2 fits right in. It's a film that doesn't ask for your approval. It just dares you to look away. That's your full recap of The Hills Have Eyes 2, a film that went underground, both literally and figuratively. Now, it's your turn. Would you want to see a true Part 3? Would you want Amber or Napoleon to return? Or should it focus on new survivors? Drop your thoughts in the comments. And if you made it to the end, type "still breathing" in Sector 16, so I know you're one of the hardcore horror heads. Like this video, share it with a horror fan who forgot how brutal this sequel was, and subscribe for more survival recaps and franchise deep dives. Until next time, stay sharp, stay alert, and never trust a routine mission.